The Philadelphia Phillies were a surprise team in the 2022 playoffs. They had fired their manager halfway through the season, and once Joe Girardi was gone, things really took a turn for the better, and they ended up making the playoffs as a wildcard team and got to the World Series as well before falling to the Houston Astros 4-2. A big part of their success was a trade they made at the very end of the trade deadline with the Los Angeles Angels acquiring former top prospect Brandon Marsh to go ahead and man center field. At the time, some people were a little concerned as Marsh hadn't really proven anything at the major league level yet, and the Phillies traded away a top 100 prospect in return. However, I think with the benefit of hindsight, it's very easy to see that Brandon Marsh has become a staple in the Philadelphia Phillies lineup, even as a left-handed hitter, and he provides outstanding defense in center field. Doing that at Citizens Bank Park is a huge plus, and I think Phillies fans can agree that Brandon Marsh is a loved player in Philadelphia and someone they hope is on their team for a long time. In this video, we're going to go ahead and evaluate just how this Brandon Marsh trade has panned out and examine just what Logan O'Hoppe's potential is with the Los Angeles Angels, even after they had a huge sell-off this trade deadline that didn't amount for too much. Before we get started, please go ahead and hit that baseball in the bottom right corner to subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot and helps my channel grow and will give you more baseball content to enjoy. And if you do end up changing your mind, you can always unsubscribe at a later time. Without further ado, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Logan O'Hoppe and Brandon Marsh trades and their respective benefits and disadvantages for the Phillies and for the Angels. Brandon Marsh began the 2021 season as the Los Angeles Angels' #1 overall prospect and the 53rd best prospect in all of baseball according to MLB Pipeline. He started the season in AAA Salt Lake City and only played 24 games there before being called up to the major leagues. The main concern with Marsh heading into the major leagues was his strikeout rate. In 2021, in AAA, he struck out 27% of the time, which is just really not up to par. Granted, he had an OPS above 830, and he did hit 3 triples, which is a testament to how much of a speed threat he is on the base pass, but nothing jumped off the page statistically, but again, it's those metrics that really allowed him to get the call-up, and why scouts were excited about him as the next potential patroller in center field after people like Jim Edmonds and Mike Trout. Although his batting average was almost identical between the minor and major leagues in 2021, his pitch selection really held him back and is part of the reason why his OBP was so low. He wasn't able to take walks and he liked to swing a lot out of the strike zone, which is why his strikeout rate was almost 40%, which is not sustainable for a major league player, and if it wasn't for his defense, he probably wouldn't be rated that highly as a prospect after this year, but because he does provide stellar defense in center field, people were still excited about his future, especially because he had the tools to put things together. If you looked at a scout's evaluation of Brandon Marsh, you'd see that he graded out plus in almost every aspect except for power, which makes sense for a defensive speedy center fielder. His hit tool is meant to be his best tool at times, and although it didn't show in his first year, it was something that scouts are really excited about going forward. Marsh has a very clean swing, and he adjusted his stance a little bit to be a little more upright to help him make more contact with the ball and tap into a little more power. That really helped him in the minor leagues, and although at the very beginning he was still struggling with major league pitching, his hit tool is definitely something that people are excited about. Although Marsh has the speed to steal some bags, he didn't have the best jump when a pitcher starts his windup, so he hasn't put up elite stolen bases numbers or really anything close to that yet. With that being said, he can definitely beat out an infield single and make a difference with his speed on the base pass and on defense. He has above average arm strength and he has above average range in center field, which is why he graded out so highly as a defender. The ability to cover a lot of ground, especially in Citizens Bank Park and other ballparks, is a huge plus for Brandon Marsh and for the Phillies going forward. Although they have Jordan Rojas, who can now also man center field, having Marsh in a corner along with Christian Pache will give them a very versatile defensive outfield that can go ahead and cover a lot of ground while you potentially DH someone like Kyle Schwarber or Nick Castellanos. Once you add someone like Bryce Harper back in the mix, and you have a very strong outfield combination, and the Phillies have a lot of potential to go with that. Save for a couple rehab appearances in AAA, Brandon Marsh has played his entire 2022 season in the major leagues with both the Angels and the Philadelphia Phillies. Marsh really struggled in his time in Los Angeles in 2022, hitting for .226 batting average and an OPS plus of 80. He really wasn't putting it together offensively like many people thought he would, and this really worried people in the Angels front office. They were entering a competitive window, and with people like Joe Adell and Brandon Marsh not really panning out how they wanted to up to 2022, things weren't looking great. Shohei Ohtani was going to be a free agent at the end of 2023, and Mike Trout was only going to get older, and we all know what's going on with Anthony Rendon. They really wanted to go ahead and change his situation and potentially get some good value in return from him as a former top prospect who wasn't far enough removed that the shine had gone away. Remember, he's not even done a full year in the major leagues, so when they traded him away, he still had a lot of that prospect pedigree attached to him, even though his talent didn't necessarily match up with the success that he's had on the field, or lack thereof. Marsh really started to put together with his new change of scenery, with his batting average jumping by over 60 points, his OPS plus jumping by almost 40, and cutting his strikeout rate by almost 5% to be below 30. Although that number isn't great, it's definitely an improvement for where he was with the Angels and in his years before that. He also put a full point of WAR with the 2002 Phillies, which is double what he put up with the Angels that same year in half the time. It just goes to show that he really started to turn things around in 2022, and this new home helped. He also exclusively played center field, which was nice because he didn't have to worry about playing center when Mike Trout needed a day off and then going manning left field or right. He had one position to play consistently, and that helped smooth things out a little bit. Marsh is getting consistent playing time this year in his age 25 season, and it's really paying off dividends for the Phillies. So far, his on-base percentage has jumped by over 50 points, which is basically the equivalent of a 5% increase in getting on base, which is a big jump, and has really helped his OPS bloom by over 40 points. And although the OPS is a little bit higher this year, his OPS plus is higher by 4 points from 117 to 121 from 2022 to 2023. As the Phillies head into the 2023 postseason as a wildcard team, having someone like Brandon Marsh in their lineup is going to be a very big help. Although he had traditionally projected to be a top-of-the-lineup guy, a 1 or 2 hole hitter, things have changed because he hasn't been able to tap into his speed as much, but the fact he's been able to be a quality offensive bat for the Phillies is a huge benefit as they deploy him in a 6, 7, or 8 hole. Having someone like that deep in your lineup is a huge plus, especially to go against powerhouses like the Dodgers or Braves, who are going to have stacked lineups all the way through. Marsh is walking a lot more in 2023. His walk rate has jumped from 4.4 with the Phillies last year to 12.5, which is his career high so far. He's really doing a good job of being more selective with pitches, and if he can go ahead and maintain that in the playoffs and make sure that he gets hot at the right time, I wouldn't be shocked to see the Phillies go on a nice little Cinderella run just like they did last year and potentially make the World Series and even win it. Logan O'Hoppe is the definition of a diamond in the rough. The Phillies took him in the 23rd round of the 2018 MLB draft out of a Long Island high school and signed him for $215,000 to prevent him from going to East Carolina. That paid off huge dividends for the Phillies as he quickly rose up prospect ranks and really gained valuable experience working with the Phillies in the alternate site in 2020 when minor league baseball was canceled. This helped him really develop very well, and in 2021 he jumped from high A to triple A before finishing in the Arizona Fall League and showing a really strong performance there. Part of the appeal about O'Hoppe is the fact that he wasn't just a defensive-minded catcher. He had the hit tool to be successful at the major league level, and some people thought his power was actually his best tool over his defensive framing and his arm strength, which is not something you often see from catchers. Although that hasn't necessarily manifested itself at the major league level yet, O'Hoppe definitely has the potential to be a very good player. He's only 23, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him on a similar trajectory as Brandon Marsh, where maybe he doesn't have the strongest start to his career, and granted, he did have a huge injury at the very beginning of 2023, which has kept him out for most of the season. He could come out and be a breakout star in a year or two, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him as the centerpiece of the Angels organization going forward. Although O'Hoppe makes good contact with the ball, he does have a very similar issue that Brandon Marsh has, in that they strike out a lot. Right now, his strikeout rate sits above 30%, which is not sustainable for the major league level and is something he definitely needs to cut down on. Thankfully, catcher is a defensive-minded position, so his offensive stats aren't as scrutinized, but it's still something that is important for him to go ahead and work on as he matures and develops in the major league level. Thankfully, pitchers love pitching to him. They say he knows how to read them very well and knows how to call a pitch mix and match exactly what the pitcher wants to do. That is an invaluable asset to have, and the fact that O'Hoppe is such a pitcher's best friend will make him a valuable catcher for the Angels in the future and will allow him to be a successful player in the long term. If you look at the Houston Astros and Martin Maldonado, Dusty Baker is so confident in his ability to call a game and be a better defensive catcher that even though he has some of the worst offensive stats in all of baseball, he's still playing games and basically their starting catcher above breakout rookie Yainer Diaz, who in my opinion should be starting almost every day. Granted, that is a bit of a unique situation, and we'll see how that plays out this postseason, whether the Astros actually were able to go ahead and use that tandem effectively, but for right now, I think Logan O'Hoppe has the potential to be a plus defender, as he has the arm strength and he has the framing ability, and his ability to go ahead and call a game and make a pitcher comfortable is going to be super valuable for an Angels team that right now is looking to rebuild as Ohtani's out the door. There's Trout rumors for a trade. Rendon is basically out of the window as he just isn't anywhere, doesn't speak English anymore. So O'Hoppe is going to be the centerpiece of the future of a team that really traded away a lot of talent at the deadline for basically nothing, and you have to hope that he has enough talent around him to maybe make a playoff run at some point, because right now it's not looking like the Angels are going to make the playoffs anytime soon. O'Hoppe's done a decent job in 2023 on offense. He's a slightly above average hitter with a 102 OPS plus, But again, that's just above league average, and he hasn't done a ton of games because of that injury, so we'll see how that goes in a full season. However, he's doing decently enough that it is above average, and as he goes and gets farther away from that injury and has more time to develop this offseason, I have no doubt he's going to become a league average hitter at bare minimum. Especially as a catcher, to have a league average OPS is very good because it is a very defensive-minded position, and that's what's valued. So if you're able to provide offensive value as well, that's just another huge plus, and is why O'Hoppe was considered a top 100 prospect at the time of this trade. He has struck out a ton, a 25% strikeout rate to only a 5% walk rate, which those numbers need to go and be a little bit closer to the middle for him to be really productive. But for right now, he's doing well enough that you can't really complain if you're an Angels fan about at least O'Hoppe. There's a lot of other things to complain about, but Logan O'Hoppe is not one of them. He's going to be a decent catcher in the future, and as he goes and matures a little bit more and graduates from prospect status, as he just did a couple weeks ago, things are going to be looking up for him. If you can lower those strikeout rates, walk a little bit more, and potentially get on base a little bit more, things are going to be really bright for the Angels behind the plate as you look at people like Max Sassy and other people walk out, and Logan O'Hoppe being the catcher of the future for the Los Angeles Angels. The Phillies might be one of the sleeper teams of the 2023 postseason. You have the Braves and Dodgers as two stalwarts of the National League, but you never know what happens. Crazier things have happened, and you could have a third team come in, and I wouldn't be shocked if that's the Phillies. I think they're a very good team, and Brandon Marsh's ability will be a very good reason why they make a deep run if they do. Having an offensive-minded center fielder who will provide value there while also being a very good defender and having the ability to play the corners is invaluable and will be a very big asset for the Phillies both this year and moving forward into their contention window. For the Angels, things aren't looking great, but it's not Logan O'Hoppe's fault. I think everyone in baseball was rooting for the Angels to make the playoffs this year, so we could see Trout and Ohtani on the same team, especially as we saw them face off at the very end of the World Baseball Classic this March. Unfortunately, that's never going to come to fruition, as it looks like Trout might be on the way out potentially, and Ohtani's most likely never going to wear an Angels jersey again. Again, that's not O'Hoppe's fault. He's going to be a solid piece going forward, but unfortunately, he just wasn't able to be a contributor this year because of his injury, and it looks like he's going to have to be one of the main contributors going forward, as Trout's injury history is pretty significant, and there hasn't been a lot of people to step up beyond Mike Trout and maybe Joe Adele if you want to consider what he's done in AAA a breakout, but it hasn't matched the major league level. Unfortunately for the Angels, there's a lot of work that needs to get done, and O'Hoppe's a good start, but after trading away a lot of their talent to acquire Lucas Giolito, CJ Cron, and Randall Grichuk, it's just not looking exciting for their future. Thank you again for watching this video. It really means a lot. If you go ahead and hit that baseball and subscribe to the channel, it would really help out and help me grow and give you more baseball content to enjoy. And please go ahead, and if you don't want to subscribe, hit one of those videos in the top corners and you will go ahead and get to watch another video that is recommended for you to watch and you will most likely enjoy. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you soon.